And welcome to Horror Boys. It's a podcast on the internet. I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris.
Other Chris. The sequel.
And we are the Horror Boys. And it's not just any podcast on the internet. It's specifically a horror movie review podcast where every week we review a horror movie. I mean, it's in the title there. Come on, guys. Pay attention.
It's self-explanatory.
Yeah. And we are currently trucking our way along through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Somehow the hardest franchise to watch. And I don't really know. I'll explain it. I'll break that down more as like the thought process there when we get to like the end when I do my wrap up on the series. But it's been a weird and rough one to get through for some reason. And I can't put my finger exactly on it.
I haven't seen all of them, but most of the ones I saw were bad.
Yeah. And we're today specifically talking about the most recent one. We are talking about the Netflix exclusive Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. It's also produced by Legendary Studios, or Pictures, not Studios. They made things before. I think they made like some Batman films. That's pretty cool. And now they made this.
Yeah.
It is directed by David Blue Garcia, and it is written by Chris Thomas Devlin, as well as the team of Fede Alvarez and Rodo Sayagas. I probably pronounced it wrong, but I tried. And they are the writing team for the Evil Dead remake and Don't Breathe. Fede actually directed both those films as well. And then also I think Fede also, and I think they actually both also produced this movie as well. But yeah, so I guess a couple other people to mention right off the bat because I don't know when else I'll bring them up. Actually, no, there's times I'll bring them up. I'll bring them up when they're more relevant. Just move on. Don't worry about it. Just move on. We're gonna open the movie. We're gonna open the movie. It's opening with this like unsolved true crime like advertisement about the original movie. It is being narrated by the OG narrator John Larroquette, who he's come back for this and as well as the prequel, or not the prequel, the remake. So he keeps coming back.
I liked this part.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like it.
Yeah. I liked this part. I liked the opening. I was really skeptical going into the movie, and then when this part came on, I was like, "Is this movie gonna be awesome?"
No.
And then
spoiler, no.
And then the rest of the movie happened. Oh dang.
Yeah. There was some stuff I really liked, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
The beginning was awesome.
Yeah, this little intro
the very
here
beginning
is really
was awesome.
good.
The rest of the beginning is...
Yeah. We'll get to that part when we get to it. First, we have to meet Lila, who is watching this little news thing. She is played by Elsie Fisher of Despicable Me fame. She was also in 8th Grade, the Bo Burnham movie. But she's also in Despicable Me, so that's cool, I guess.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite movie ever, Despicable Me.
She played one of the daughters.
Banana.
No, she's not in Minions because the daughters aren't in that one.
Right. But the Minions are in Despicable Me.
Yeah. Banana.
Thank you.
And she is watching this.
She was pretty good in this movie.
You said she was good?
I thought she was pretty good in this movie. Yeah.
She was, I mean, honestly,
I think she did.
None of the acting was terrible.
It was just, the lines.
Yeah.
Dialogue between all of the characters.
Most of it. There's like one scene
This is going to set something up later. This is going to set something up later. I don't think she should have been the first character we see because she's not the focal point of the movie as much as the beginning makes her seem. So I'm going to talk about that throughout the movie.
All right. After she watches this little ad for this true crime documentary that's about to air, Well, also, I guess, real quick, part of the true crime documentary is we do get established that Sally Hardesty is still alive. Okay, cool. Yeah, and she picks up a she's in this gas station. It's full of souvenirs. She picks up a cool little
chainsaw corkscrew.
Yeah, because they're just capitalizing on this mass murder that happened 50 years ago. Which, to be fair, it's realistic. It definitely would happen.
I liked that.
But yeah. Then her sister.
That was another thing that made me think I was gonna really, really like this movie.
Yeah.
It's fair. Her sister comes in, and we find out that Melody, who is played by Sarah Yarkin, that the locals, they don't like her plan to gentrify Harlow. Ooh. That's the plot of the movie, guys. So if you've already checked
really
out,
think you can.
Fair.
I don't think you can gentrify a ghost town. I don't think that's how that works.
There's a lot of terms that they use
unless
that they
they're
don't know how
kicking
they
everybody
work.
out.
There's a very infamous scene that you've all seen in the trailer where they also use a term that does not at all actually apply to the situation that's happening. We will get to that when we get to that. It's probably the scene that this movie will go down in infamy
on a certain bus.
Yeah. We'll get to it. Settle down. That's a good tease, but we don't want to give it away yet.
Yeah. God. Yeah.
Yeah. Outside, the sisters, they meet up with Dante, who is played by Jacob Lattimore, and his significant other, known in the captions as Dante's partner and only ever Dante's partner. She's a kind of important character, yet she is only ever referred to as Dante's partner in that, and the only time you ever hear anyone talk about her, it's him saying, she's gonna be my future wife. Her name is Ruth, according to the credits. But you wouldn't know that if you watched the movie.
I didn't think they named her.
Yeah, I didn't think they named her either.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
They also didn't say the name of anybody's characters enough, because I don't think they said Lila's name until the very end of the movie. Because I didn't know what her name was until it was said at the end of the movie in one of the last scenes.
Well, we know Dante's name, and that's the most important.
But maybe that's just me not paying attention.
Dante and Mel.
Yeah, Dante and Mel.
Melody and Dante's names are both said a lot.
Yeah, Dante wants to start a utopia, but that's actually a scene away from now. Let's get to the scene before that. But yeah, Ruth is played by Nell Hudson, and then they're outside, they're chatting for a little bit before Richter drives up in his pickup truck, blaring metal music. The thing you think of when you think of guys in pickup trucks. Metal music. Wait. No,
Country gentleman in Texas.
Yeah.
Death metal.
There is a big reason to complain about this scene that I'm going to get to in a second, but initially I was already mad that this country boy is rocking this metal. Like, he's not listening to metal. He is listening to some country garbage that I'd hate, and he didn't, and it made me mad.
I got friends in low places.
Yeah. Yes.
Blasting it full volume.
He's coming into, big green tractor. He is ready. But no, he's got a generic metal song playing. He is played by Mo Dumford. That's a name. I feel sorry for him in middle school.
Mo Dumford.
Also, Mo is just kind of a weird name too. Like, he did not get the. I don't know where I'm going with it.
As a kid, this was definitely before having a dumpy was a thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a thick country boy.
And he gets out, Richter, to pump his gas with a gun in a holster on his hip. Oh my. And that makes Melody, in earshot of Richter, start talking about how he must have a small penis that he's compensating for. In earshot of the man with a gun that she's... It's just like... Here's the thing. No one would ever say that, probably ever, but definitely not before they got in the car and were driving away.
And definitely not within earshot of said person that said comment is directed towards.
You understand. But he's got a small peepee because he's got a gun.
Melody's apparently just does not care about anything.
Nope. Richter asks her. What is it? Richter, I missed it. Richter explains that he has a gun because of the feral hog epidemic, which I did get a little. There was a little chuckle from me there when they referenced the the tweet about the feral hog. I love the feral hog tweet, so for that to be thrown in here as like a joke from this character, which kind of shows that it shows this weird like thing that I don't know how I feel about this movie overall, because I kind of feel like they're self-aware. I do think there's an element of, I think a lot of this was them trying to pick fun at the stupidity of both sides. Like, I think they did a bad job at even doing that. But yeah. I do think there is an element of, people describe this movie as like the woke Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I don't think this movie's actually taking a stance one way or the other.
Because if
I think if anything, it's a little bit conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually a little bit conservative because in the end, the conservative guy ends up being right about pretty much everything. I mean, as far as like the guns go, and as far as, it just
but he also then, after he mentions the feral hogs, also gives a very thinly veiled threat to eradicate them for being an invasive species.
That felt weird to me. That felt weird.
I mean, don't talk about a man's pee-pee. That's his pee-pee. He's proud of his pee-pee.
That's fair.
He's got a big pee-pee, and how dare you say otherwise?
Yeah.
Does a big gun make you nervous, girl? And then she, retorts that she's seen bigger guns. Which, hey, I guess that's a good clap. I don't know.
I guess.
This scene...
It's not a giant gun, I guess.
It's true. It's just a kind of like a small handgun.
It's a handgun.
I mean,
he does have an assault rifle in his garage. But we'll get to that.
But not
those feral hogs are going crazy. I tell you what.
What are you supposed to do when 40 and 50 feral hogs run into your backyard where your kids are playing?
Yeah, you take your AR-15.
Exactly. What else am I supposed to do?
Oh, jeez.
So they get in the car, and we get our first hint of Lila's past as she flips through her anti-gun Instagram and covers her bullet wound scar. So this whole subplot,
I hate the way this movie depicts new technology.
Fair.
It was just really annoying.
I don't know how I feel about them going there with a school shooting survivor, because there is part of me that goes hey, sadly that's something that we have to deal with in life. Maybe we do need well-written characters who've been through that. The problem was she wasn't a well-written character. But
no,
this was not the movie to do that.
I thought whenever I saw that, this was one of the things that got me a little bit excited. My excitement diminished a little bit after the opening. But then during this scene, I was like, that's kind of an interesting angle if they do something with it, where you have somebody who's gone through a recent trauma, and you have Sally, who's gone through a trauma in the past, and it could be kind of an interesting thing about how trauma shapes and changes us. So I got kind of excited with this.
They do kind of try to ham-fist that.
But I don't think they did anything
end,
actually interesting with it.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. And this is also, I will say, I guess, I get not fully, because once again, still she's an idiot. But it does explain why Melody was so apprehensive at seeing a gun. Her sister, that is a fair reason to then hate guns when your sister was shot in a school shooting. That's fair. But still, also, what idiot says that in front of the guy in earshot? It's just...
That is the thing about Melody and Lila's characters is Lila is written as a, for the most part, sensible human being, whereas Melody, most occasions, is just a caricature of woke
Gen
culture,
Z, millennial culture.
Yeah,
it's almost.
I also thought they were dating at the beginning.
Well, it is Texas. No.
Yeah. I thought Mel and Lila were dating, but I found out that wasn't true. But I was like,
we do find
that's
that out.
Kind of cool.
To be fair, I don't know how long we thought
Representation.
that, because literally the scene that follows, like right after this, we find out that they have the same grandma.
Yeah, at this point,
Okay.
I figured
For
that
this
out.
scene,
But at the
you thought they were dating.
beginning,
Fair,
I thought
fair,
they
fair.
were dating. Yeah.
But yeah, they then get cut off by Richter in his, truck, and he's coal rolling, because that's a thing that sometimes people do, and we want you to hate Richter right now, so he does that.
Yeah, but I mean, she did insult his people.
Yeah, honestly,
so
here's the thing.
He's got a coal roll.
Yeah.
Coal rolling, bad, terrible,
Yeah,
Insult a man's
destroying
wiener,
the
you're gonna get rolled
environment.
on.
But if anyone deserved it, it might
It's
be
Mel.
Melody.
Yeah.
Then they get pulled over by the sheriff, who is played by William Hope, who I believe was in Alien. He was in Aliens, not Alien. He was one of the military people in it. And then we also have the deputy. Neither of these two characters have names other than sheriff and deputy, but that is their names in the credits. And he is played by Jolion Coy, which is a really weird but kind of awesome name.
I'm very French.
Yeah. And they are kind of intimidatingly helpful as they kind of talk to Dante. It's kind of like the situation where they're definitely trying to play off of the uneasiness that a lot of African American people have to have with the police because of, systematic racism and whatnot. But once again, like everything in this movie, they halfway touch on an issue without actually giving it any bit of justice that it might deserve if you wanted to go there. So he's just kind of uneasy.
I don't think we need this scene.
Yeah, that's fair. And it does kind of seem like the cops are a little apprehensive until Melody pipes in and she knows the old town motto, so they're cool.
Yep. Because Grandma is from this part of Texas.
She lived in Harlow.
Harlow.
Yep. That's it. That's the scene. I will say, I will give the movie the tiniest bit of credit. And something they actually do, I think, pretty well throughout the whole movie is we get introduced to these characters that you kind of feel are they are. They're they're kind of antagonistic forces to our main characters, but they're not actually bad people. And I think they do a really good job of kind of trying to show that there is good in the bad people. Yeah, he might seem like this cop that you're like, oh, do we trust this cop? And he doesn't actually do anything wrong. Richter is shown, spoiler, Richter is an important character. He wasn't just in that scene. And he later on also kind of gets a moment of heart and and you kind of get to realize he's not just
guy who owns
the gun-toting, coal-rolling Republican you think he's supposed to be at the beginning. You realize, he has a heart. He kind of... There's a moment that we'll get to when it happens where he, actually kind of, feels moved by a situation and, understanding of why someone might feel the way they do. It's, credit to the movie. They could have very easily just written him as angry Republican. And they didn't, so... respect for that.
I'll give them a little praise for that.
A little bit. And here's the thing. They're not going to get a lot of praise for most of what they do in this movie. So I'll give them the little praise when they deserve the little praise.
Hey, they wrote a character that wasn't completely two-dimensional and seems like an actual human being.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, they wrote two. I think, honestly, Richter and Lila are both written pretty well.
Yeah.
And they're the only two characters in the movie... actually, that's not true. Dante's partner is also written very well for the couple scenes we see of her. She's also a very caring person who had her, we'll get to that when we get to... But yeah, there's a couple characters.
Unfortunately, she doesn't get to be named at all in this
and
movie.
Also, the movie focuses mostly on Melody, who is pretty one-dimensional.
I really don't know why the movie did that. I don't know why they focused so much on her. It was insane to me.
So that they could do what they did at the end and make you feel sad?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Once in Harlow, we get kind of like the scene of them just kind of walking around with talking about their gentrification plans. There are, I'm trying to think of like a couple things that like stuck out as like fun. There's the really weird sound effect Dante makes when he gets out of the car. He like goes like, oh, and you're like, what is he doing? There was also
I don't understand their plan. I think it's really stupid.
It is. But
maybe I just don't understand.
No, it is.
It just doesn't.
Stupid plan.
How would you get customers to go like in the middle of nowhere like that? Why would I want to go there? There's nothing around there.
Because you're going to make that one little town such a destination and such a social media hotspot that you have to be there or you're lame. They have the Dante and Melody food truck restaurant as well as Brady's brunch. What else do you need in a town?
And maybe an arcade.
Apparently they're going to put a comic book store.
And maybe a comic book store, which would be very lit.
And an arcade.
And an art gallery.
And an arcade.
Well, probably not, because Dante's partner dies before she gets to put her art gallery in. Very sad.
Well, I mean...
Yeah, that's fair. Fair enough. But yeah, we'll move on from that. It's a very generic scene where not much happens. They're all talking, and it was another scene that at this point, when I first watched the movie, because I did watch this movie twice, I was hating this movie because we already had Melody's introduction where I was like, all right, cool, this movie is trying so hard to be like kind of woke, and then we have like the youngest character saying lit, and I'm like, got it, this was written by 40-year-olds who have no idea what they're talking about. Like,
well, I liked the use of the word lit there because it felt sarcastic. It felt like she was being like, oh wow, lit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like kind of making fun of the use of the word.
That's fair. But also,
I felt like she was using it ironically.
At this point, here's the thing. The second time I watched the movie, honestly, I didn't hate the whole first scene like at all, really. Like, I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, maybe because I was expecting it. I didn't hate the movie nearly as much the second time I watched it. But the first time I watched this movie, I texted Chris 10 minutes in being like, this is the worst movie ever. Because that's how I felt.
I was the opposite. the first like... Well, really it was the middle part. The beginning, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then the scenes that we're going to talk about in a little bit, I was like, oh, this movie's like,
but then I got like, might be awesome. But then I got really, really into like the specific laws of like home ownership and deeds, and I was like, I'm confused. We'll get to that. We gotta stop. We gotta stop getting off. We gotta stick where we are. We all have a lot of thoughts on a lot of this movie, but we gotta get through the scenes that we only kind of care about because we might miss one that's fun, or fun to make fun of. Then they meet up with Richter as they realize that, oh no, he's their contractor.
Oh my god.
This person that they had an altercation with is important to the story. Yeah, that's fair.
I hated that so much.
That's fair. I will say there is a kind of a funny back and forth scene here between Richter and Dante's partner, as she is known. Where she like describes what they want to do, and he's like, or he first like, oh, you guys sound like a cult, and she's like, no, we just want to build a better utopia for people, and he's like, got it, a cult.
I like that.
And I was like, and he's like, and he was also like, that's fine with me. I don't care as long as I get paid. Start your cult, which fair enough, Richter. Then Dante, well, actually, specifically, Lila notices and points out to Dante that there's a Confederate flag on the orphanage.
Yep.
And she said, and let's again, certain types of like line delivery and just bad choice. Like the way she like delivers this line is like, you're gonna want to see this, but like almost happy that it was there. The way she delivered it, and I'm like, what? I mean, I guess she just wants to watch the world burn because she doesn't want to be there. But like, gosh, yeah,
Lila, anarchy.
I hate guns, but I love the Confederate flag.
I don't know why they thought that investors would care about that in an old Texas small town. Like, I'm pretty sure investors are going to be like, "Oh, there's a flag there." That
I don't
makes
agree.
sense.
I'm going to disagree because the type of investors we're having in this movie are the most actually existing, super woke Gen Z millennial archetypes of those kind of people. They would get extra mad about it.
I think they would get mad about it, but I don't think it would stop them from investing. I think if anything, it would be like, "Oh, we get to fix this place."
Maybe. But, I could also, these are the same people that say that very infamous line from the trailer. Though here's the thing. Those people don't actually exist who talk the way they want. But if someone were to talk like that, I think they would be the kind of people who would leave if they saw a Confederate flag.
Maybe.
But, yeah, so he's like, I gotta fix this. So Dante and Melody, they go and let themselves into the orphanage. We do find out a little bit later it's because they think that, hey, they bought the whole town, them and the bank. They foreclosed it all, and they can now go and they own it, which, hey, fair. So they go in. It's not quite the breaking and entering that I know and love for my Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchises. They actually had probable cause to think they belonged there.
They didn't just see an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere and go, yeah, I should go in here.
They went, we own this abandoned house. Let me go in there. Fair, it's different.
Yeah, completely. Context.
The first one was in the 70s, though. So in the 70s, people just went into people's houses all the time.
I don't know if that's true. I think that might be what that movie wants you to think.
Yeah, serial killers went into people's houses all the time.
But yeah.
Bundy.
Dante, he goes upstairs while Melody stays downstairs.
And we get kind of a cool shot.
There is an amazing shot. I'm not going to say
Leatherface just sitting in his bone chair as Dante walks in to take down the flag.
And then we cut to outside view of him trying to take the flag and not being able to. When we cut back to the room, Leatherface is gone. 100%. That is actually genuinely great cinematography / direction. I don't know which.
I think it's a combination of both, because also they don't do any audio cues to signify that Leatherface is there. They just let it happen, and it's
So that is where I will bring up
unsettling.
Our director of photography, Ricardo Diaz, who also was the tandem director of photography. I don't know what that means, but that's what his role was.
He was on the back of a tandem bike.
Apparently.
Hey, you should do this.
He shot a few episodes of Stranger Things 4. So season 4 of Stranger Things. So that's cool. But also, I don't know what tandem DP is. Is that a new fancy word for second unit? Is he also he had his own camera that he was director of photography on, while the real director of photography was also shooting. I don't know. I don't know what tandem DP is, but he is that.
That honestly sounds like a
this movie looks good.
Thing.
It does. It genuinely. There are a lot. There are a few shots, especially that are beautiful. So this movie does deserve some credit for some things. It honestly is directed pretty well. The writers, they deserve some.
I have some issues with it, but we'll get to those.
But yeah. So after he can't get it down though, so he heads back downstairs. And he runs. He goes to talk to Melody, but they meet Miss Virginia or Ginny, or as the IMDb calls her, Miss MC, even though she's never referred to that. So my notes say Miss MC, even though
era.
Huh?
I said era, Miss MC.
Yeah, her name's Virginia or Ginny, either one if you want. If you're close to her, you can call her Ginny.
Nobody knows Ginny from the block.
Yeah, she is played by Alice Krige, who I believe was in a Star Trek. She played a Borg queen, so that's pretty cool. If you're into Star Trek, I'm not, but some people are.
That's a choice you can make in life.
Oh, that's mean. It's fine.
I won't judge you for it, but it's a choice you can make.
I mean, anything's a choice you can make. You could choose to be a fan of horror movies. You could choose to be a fan of comic. You could choose to be a fan of anything. I guess that's true. It's all a choice. Everything in life is a choice.
The choice is yours. Don't have grass. That's all I'm going to say.
They don't know what that means, and that's okay. We'll move on.
Exactly. That's all we're going to say.
She explains why she's still here in the house, being like, hey, no, I paid the bank. And then she calls Dante a slur, because she's an old woman, and
She's from a different time.
It's one of those times where
raised plenty
it is
of boys
completely
like
justified for the character to say it, but I'm not gonna say what she says. But it does really offend Dante, so he gets up and leaves and is like, "All right, I'm done with this. I'm just gonna call the cops to get her out of here because we own this place. She needs out." Or do they own it? Maybe, because that plotline kind of goes somewhere. Maybe, but does it? No,
they
not
do
really.
Say that, like, oh well, if you still have the deed, show it to us, and she, being the proud Texas lady, I guess.
I don't have to!
Says, I don't have to show you anything.
Yeah. You understand.
Fair. I would if somebody just came into my house and was like, "We own this place." I'd be like,
house.
"No, you need to get out."
Yeah. So after he leaves, she does explain that, like, it's all a misunderstanding. She only has the flag because it reminds her of her racist granddaddy. So, sorry, wait.
It was her granddaddy's flag.
Yeah. But, yeah, so it's actually not hers. She's shifting the blame. It is not her flag. It's not her fault.
Yeah, she never took it down because she never really gave it much thought anyway.
Yeah, she didn't think about how it could offend someone.
And why would she? She is a white woman.
And you know what? It's pretty accurate. And she also explains that she can't leave and go to a home like Melody suggests because of her boy, it's Leatherface.
Yeah. Right. Which, if you think about the whole timeline, doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it kind of can.
No.
It's not great. Like, I'm not saying it's good, but
unless Leatherface is like 15 in the first movie.
Well, he's due to the fact that it was the 70s and he had special needs, he could have still been put into an orphanage even if he was... I mean, there's a chance. Yeah, like, there is a very possible chance they might have, like, or she chose to welcome him in even though technically he shouldn't have. Like, the one time we see a picture...
He was welcomed in 2 years after, like, the first movie.
We see a picture of him in 2 years after. He might have been welcomed in the day after.
That picture, it looks like he's like 10 or 15 or something. He doesn't look very old in that picture.
No, that's after.
That was a little
that's
confusing.
75. So that he is 2 years older than he was in the first movie. In that picture.
Right.
But his face is all scratched. You can't see him. He's 40 there.
But he's also like the height of an older teenager, maybe.
I mean, I guess he seemed like a tall dude there. Still, he's in the background. He's still. I mean,
he was taller than a bunch of children. Yes.
I think he was also taller than... I think she was in the picture, too, and he's much taller than her, too.
I just want to know what happened to Alexandra Daddario.
Oh, that's a different timeline. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
But the real actual question is, what happened to Jim Sedow's cook? Because he's alive at the end of the original, and he just lets Leatherface go to an orphanage.
Leatherface walks out into the middle of the road and gets picked up by... Ginny.
And you know what? Maybe that's the story. Here's the thing. I agree. There is an element of you could point that out as an issue, but honestly, I could totally look past that if the rest of the movie was good and not even question it. Just go like, yeah, sure, I guess. Yeah.
Me too.
Fair enough. Fine. Like, honestly, I didn't even pay any attention. I was like, my mindset was like, just like, okay, he's in an orphanage? Fine, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
and maybe he was 17 in the first movie.
But
he was a big old 17-year-old. We didn't get an age on him.
It's possible.
Yeah, and he just barely.
It depends on whether Leatherface is canon or not.
Yeah. Also, according to Fede Alvarez, is it Fede Alvarez? Is that right? Yeah, Fede Alvarez. Any movie can be canon.
Yeah,
it's pick or choose. If you want it to be canon, it's all canon, and it's like, no, it can't be.
I guess that is the approach that the Texas Chainsaw movies take to their own franchise. Yeah. But I disagree.
I still stand by if that statement from him is completely flawed. I think you can put this in a timeline where it matches up with the first movie, and I don't fully hate it. I don't love it.
If it's a good movie, I'm okay with ignoring certain things from the timeline and not ignoring certain things. Like, if it's going to be a good movie, but this isn't very good.
No, it's not. But I still stand by, like, I think from what I remember seeing from the picture, I had no reason to think that he looked like a kid in it. I thought, like, oh, it's just he looked like a menacing figure in the background of it. And, yeah, maybe he was already, like, 25 there, but Ginny chose to take him in anyway, because she's just such a kind soul.
He looked young to me, but it doesn't
His
really
face is
matter.
scratched
I
out.
don't.
You can't see anything. You're making stuff. You guys are wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You can't see his face. Also, 4 is also canon. The Illuminati's still there because I choose it to be. And Fede said it was canon if I want it to be. I also choose the prequels too, or the remake. That's also canon for my timeline. He's also a Hewitt.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, so Leatherface, she can't leave because of Leatherface. Then the cops show up to remove her and are like, Virginia, Jenny, we told you to leave. Go! And then she starts to have a heart attack. She might have technically started, it seemed like she might have been starting to have the heart attack before the cops showed up, but they definitely exasperated the heart attack. Then the cops, Leather, and Dante's partner, some call her Ruth, decide to take her to the hospital because, you know, what did it say? Because the bus is starting to show up. Melody wants to go, but Dante's partner is like, no, you need to stay because you're one of the faces of this project, of this undefined project where we want to make this Dantopia or whatever.
This plan makes no sense.
No,
I
doesn't.
really don't understand what they're trying to do.
Also, Melody wants to go because she feels guilty about basically being
Melody wants it because it's a good
for an old
person.
woman's death.
But also, I think this is a point where I pointed out earlier, where I actually think Dante's partner also proves to be that she is also a good human being. She's like, right. No, you're right. Someone should go with her because this is bad, but I'll go with her. You stay here. Like, you know, good for Dante's partner. That was a great sacrifice she made of her life here and her naming rights. She does not get a name because of this choice.
Sure. She will not be alive very soon.
Yeah. Then Richter, he forcefully hands Dante his, in quotes, flag. Ooh, it's his flag. Ooh. And then, after that line delivery that I hated, the flag falls in one of the most beautiful cinematography shots I've ever seen of, like, this low-angle shot of the flag on the ground and, like, the people behind. It's art. And it doesn't deserve to be right after such a I'm a racist guy, here's your flag. Like, but then it's like, look at this beautiful shot of this discarded flag. And I'm like, that actually is a really pretty shot. Respect.
It's one of those shots where it's like, it looks really nice, but I don't understand why it's there.
Exactly.
But it looks nice.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's stupid and it shouldn't be here. But it is beautiful. But yeah. So, then Lila tells Melody that she'll just move back in with their dad because she doesn't want to be here. But Melody says...
I wouldn't want to be there either.
Yeah, that's fair.
I grew up in a small Texas town. You don't want to be there.
Well, it's okay because this is actually shot in Bulgaria again because apparently that's Texas now.
Yeah. Bulgaria is basically the middle of nowhere.
I mean, yeah. Which I will also bring up here. I didn't write down who, like, the production designer was, but really respect to them to make this little small town, because they made this out of scratch, like, in the middle of nowhere in Bulgaria, and it looks like it could really be, like, a ghost town. Like, so, big props to them.
It really does.
On them, like, literally just building this town. Like, respect.
If you watch this movie on mute, I think it's a lot better.
It's fair. But then Melody also ends this by saying that you need me and you can't take care of yourself, which really makes Lila mad, so she storms off.
That bothered me, and I'll get to why later. But that scene really, really bothered me on second watch.
Fair. Dante then introduces a distracted Melody to Catherine from the bank, who gets a name because she's really important, unlike Dante's partner. She is played by Jessica Alain. Then we cut to the police van where Miss Virginia MC Jenny dies in the van, which causes Leatherface to go into a rage and kill in one of the, like, coolest kills ever.
It was so cool.
Yeah,
this movie has really good gore.
Yeah,
This
I think
part
this
of
is
the
one of the
movie?
few times I thought it was great. But gets a little too
this
digital
part of the
for my
movie is where I
taste.
thought, is this movie awesome?
Yeah, it's fair.
Like this scene, I was like, do I love this movie?
Around this point on my first watch is when I kind of got a little bit back into the movie. I was like, okay, hold up. That's pretty cool. And we should explain why it's cool, because we haven't done that yet. And that is, Leatherface takes the deputy's, holds him by the hand, breaks his wrist, and then
stabs him with it.
Takes
so
the
cool.
protruding wrist bone and stabs him repeatedly in the neck to kill him.
Oh, it's wild.
And while he's doing this, the deputy does also... He accidentally shoots the sheriff in the neck.
It is the neck.
Yeah, it's right through the neck and chin a little bit, but...
Bad trigger discipline.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he is getting...
Well, it's hard to discipline your
he
finger
is
when
getting
you're being stabbed
his
in the
neck
neck by your own
stabbed.
I mean, still.
I think his finger
I guess
slipped.
he was planning on shooting Leatherface, so...
I mean, yeah, and he probably should have when he starts getting crazy like that. You get your hand on your gun just in case when he starts coming at you.
Yeah.
And that causes...
I do have one criticism, and this actually goes for the whole Chainsaw Massacre franchise. It's really hard to say Leatherface in a cool way, because if you say it slightly wrong, you say Leller, which just sounds like how I said yellow when I was 3. So it becomes a little less cool.
Oh, Leatherface.
See,
Leatherface.
Whenever I
scary Leatherface.
hear the name Leatherface, I think of there's a line from a movie called Idle Hands. I don't know if either of you have seen it, but it's like a horror comedy where and Seth Green's in it, and he holds up a little turkey knife and goes, "I'm Leatherface," and that's what I think of every time I hear Leatherface now.
There's a scene later in the movie where Sally says Leatherface, and she says it a little bit like Leatherface, and it just I couldn't not laugh both times.
If only they would have just cut out that Sally arc that meant nothing and was stupid, and then it would have been better.
Oh my god.
We'll get to that when we get there. We're not there yet. Sorry, she's not here yet. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, after the sheriff gets shot in the neck, the van does crash into, I believe, a harvester. I tried to do research, tried to figure out what it is. I believe it was a harvester that they crashed into. If you're a big farm boy out there, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Back in town, while Melody hosts the gentrification auction, Lila, which there is, I will say about this gentrification auction scene, there is actually one of my favorite line deliveries in the whole movie. You have this distracted Melody being and it's sold to Brady's Brunch. Oh, brunch! I love brunch. It was such a weird line delivery. I just genuinely it brought a smile to my face when I heard it. I was like, what? Okay.
Brunch. I remember it fondly.
Yeah. Oh, how nice brunch! Oh, cool. I might have been the cause of a death, but brunch.
Brunch. Brunch does fix everything.
It does.
Factually proven.
Lila goes into Richter's garage, where she has a flashback to the school shooting she was in while holding his assault rifle.
I really like this scene.
I both hate and like this scene, because it's my whole thing with this whole plot is I don't feel like they do it well enough to justify bringing up school shootings, because that's something that could really trigger someone, and it's not really needed. And I think especially showing her lying on the ground while her friends are dead around her, it's powerful, but and it would be powerful, and it would deserve to be that powerful if they did something good with it. And besides this next bit of dialogue in this scene, it isn't done well. The scene that follows right after it is amazing and deserves so much credit for what it is. But the problem is it's surrounded by the rest of this whole plot line that doesn't work, so it doesn't deserve the gravity it gets in it.
I agree. I think I liked this scene the first time I watched it, because what I thought they were going to do is I thought they were going to show Sally and Lila. I thought they were going to have more interaction, and I thought the movie was going to kind of be
they have that great important
trauma from
scene.
2 different angles, and kind of how trauma shapes us. I thought that's where the movie was going, So I got really excited with this scene because I was like, that is a really cool angle for a movie.
Yeah, that would have been
Of course, they don't do that.
Yeah.
But
I will give this next like bit of dialogue back and forth a lot of credit because it's some really powerful like back and forth dialogue that once again, kind of like that really pretty shot, has no right to be in this movie. Because he asks her if it's tough living with that, and she responds saying that everyone expects her to do something special now. But I'm paraphrasing slightly, but her friends were the special ones, not her. Which the gut punch when you hear that, and it's such a like powerful, like meaningful. Like there is a great horror movie that is written around like this line is like the central piece, and then make a good movie surrounding it, like before and after. This isn't it, but this one scene is amazing.
This is where I started to think, this movie is awesome because we had the scene with the hand where he stabs the guy with
the
his
Leatherface
hand,
scene was right before
and then we
this.
had this. I was like, this movie might be awesome. I think I love this movie, and then I don't. But these two scenes, I think there's like 3 or 4 really really good scenes in this movie.
Yeah,
and then there's a lot of really really bad scenes.
Yeah,
yeah.
And Sally Hardesty's in most of them. What? I didn't say that. But yeah, the special ones. Melody reads a text from Dante's partner telling her that the old lady died. Melody freaks out, understandably, and goes to find Lila to leave. Like, she's like, I'm done. I can't do this, Dante. She's dead. Like, we killed her. And he's like, no, we did. He's a little, like, here's the thing. She might be reacting a little too over the top if they believe they're in the right the way they said they were. But he is so flippantly like, who cares? Shouldn't have been there. She's dead now. Also, she was a racist, so I'm glad she's dead. It's like, all right, Dante, I settle down just a tad on it, okay? Like, he doesn't say any of that, but you get the point. He seems way too like, oh, shucks, guess she's dead. It's like, it's
no remorse whatsoever.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to feel guilt for it like Melody does, but you could still feel remorse that a woman is dead. But no, he doesn't. So she goes out to find Lila, and I believe it's at this point she also she goes into like the garage and like goes to get Lila, and there's this really weird like implication that she thinks that they slept together. Sorry, played harmonica together. Slip of the tongue there. But also it's like, how old is Lila? Like, I feel like she's supposed to be like 16, 17 at the oldest. But her sister's like, oh, you're just sleeping with this 25-year-old? You shouldn't have done that. Not like, what did this guy do to my young, innocent sister? Like, did you do that? Did you really? Like, what? Like, it's such, like, it didn't need to be there. Like, it so adds nothing to the plot.
It really doesn't add anything.
Yeah.
Like, because the scene, in the end of that scene, she does, like, tell her, like, hey, the woman's dead, we need to leave. And that part of the scene is important, because it has, well, important for the sake of this crappy movie and its plot. But, like, you needed Richter to hear that so he could take their keys in a couple scenes. But yeah, it's just, ugh. Now we cut back to Dante's partner, and she is she's waking up, and she tries to, like, she gets the radio and like calls for help, while Leather is cutting off Miss Virginia's face, and honestly, like, this whole like next little sequence is pretty good. Like, it's like really well done. Like, once again, one of the best scenes in the movie, like one of the 3, like we already talked about the other 2 I really liked, involves Dante's partner, yet the movie didn't respect her enough to give her a name. And like, this whole scene is like central and important on like her reactions to what's going on, and she delivers. Like, but she doesn't even get the honor of having a name. She's Dante's partner, according to the stupid captions. You know how easy it is? It's literally easier to type Ruth in the captions.
1 versus 2 words.
Yeah, it took longer to type out Dante's partner.
Yeah. And I'll also point out, this scene came right after the 2 really, really good scenes in this movie.
The 3 best scenes are all next to each other.
I'm like, I was so in at this point. I was like, this movie is awesome. I was excited.
We get it, other Chris. You don't have to keep defending it. We understand why you thought the movie was going to be good. It's fair.
Yeah.
You can feel justified. Upset. It's fair. You were wrong, but it's understandable why you felt that way.
I'm just so upset that the movie didn't deliver.
That's fair. There's like this really, like, once again, like kind of like a grotesquely but very pretty shot of Leather holding up his, like, the new skin face to the sunlight as, like, the light comes through it. Like, it's really
that was pretty cool.
It's really weird to describe a man holding up a woman's face to the sunlight as pretty, but it was. But yeah, then he puts on her face, and Dante's partner says this on the radio, which the gas station attendant hears her distress call. Then we cut back to the sheriff, so we cut away for like a second, like to him reacting to the call. Yeah. Then we cut back to the van, and the sheriff loudly comes to, because apparently he's not dead yet.
He's choking on his own blood. He's
choking on his own blood, and and this now draws a now skin face wearing Leather to come back and bash him in the head with, I don't really know what. I think it's like some log, I think it's
a fire hydrant.
Maybe.
That's what it looked like.
Or not a fire hydrant, a fire extinguisher.
Looked like it hurt though.
Yeah.
He pulled a fire hydrant from the ground.
Yeah. He hits him like twice and knocks him, I guess, dead. Yeah.
Knocks him dead.
I mean, yeah, he knocks him dead.
He does a great job.
Yeah.
Standing ovation from Dante's partner.
Well, it was a sitting.
But actually, she's not reacting at all. She's pretending to be dead. How rude. Then her door, once he like leaves, her door won't open, so she has to try to like crawl out the broken driver's window to like escape. Because she also like tries to open her window and open her door, but the door's jammed. So she has to crawl through the broken window, and she's like looking around and she can't find anything. So she looks behind her, and Leatherface is behind her, and he busts open the window behind her, pulls her towards him, and like chokes her while like stabbing a piece of glass into her stomach and like eviscerating her. And it's like,
it was a piece of metal to break.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. He does gut her a little bit.
And it is like really sad. Like, it's not a kill I like enjoyed. I felt bad because I was like, oh, Dante's partner. Like,
you can feel that Leather didn't really enjoy it either.
That's true.
You know, after he murders her, he like brushes her hair down over her eyes.
Yeah, she has her one tear that went down as she was struggling. It's just hard to watch.
Yeah, she really should have just played dead for like the next 2 hours.
Yeah. Then we get this real. Then we. I mean, it's both cool and completely pointless, so I don't like it. But we get the really pretty shot of him popping up from the sunflowers, which was also in the trailer. That like, it's pretty and really well shot, but why was he like hiding in the sunflowers to pop up? I don't know. But it's a cool shot. Like, it is the most stupid shot if you think about it for even half a second.
In the context of the movie.
Yeah, and I guess the justification is maybe he was setting up Virginia because he does sit her up, and maybe this is when he's doing that. Like, that's me right now trying to justify it, and it could be the answer, but also, you know, anything's canon if you want it to be. The Illuminati helped him.
And then he starts walking back towards Harlow, and might I say, I think Leatherface might be one of the fastest men on Earth. Because the next scene takes place in the house when Dante and Mel are looking for the deed to the house to make sure that, you know, they didn't kill a woman for no reason. And somehow Leatherface is in the house with them.
Well, maybe they were looking for a while. They don't really tell us exactly how long they were looking. And also, maybe who knows how long it took Melody to walk back over to Dante, because she has to walk back over to him outside before they go inside. So
from across the
Richter
town,
can take the keys from her. Because you might have killed that lady, so I'm not letting you leave till you prove you didn't.
Yeah.
Rude, by the way.
Yeah. So I
You
hate
just steal somebody's keys.
Yeah, I hate to do this because I really like when you try to like continue the podcast without me. Like I like it because I try to like jump on with you. But there's a really kind of importantly stupid scene we have to get to before they get inside, and that's the scene where he goes to look for the deed in the bus, doesn't have it, so Lila comes up with the bright idea of, well, if it's in her house, then it can't be there, which is the stupidest thing ever. There's nothing like, what if she never gave it back? Or also, what if you don't find it? What does that prove to the man who's demanding proof? Well, we went into her house and we didn't find it.
And we don't have it, so maybe the bank has it.
Yeah, it's like, what? How do you think that's gonna work? It's so stupid. Like, it is the point where, like, here's the thing. This is the point, like, the crux of this now deed subplot we're gonna get into for a little bit here as they go into the house that causes their deaths. Like, but it's so stupid that it ever even started. It makes no sense for them to go, like, let's go search this woman's entire house and hope we don't find the deed. Because that'll prove that it's not there.
But if they do get the deed, then they can give it to him and get their keys back.
I think he also says it must be at the office in Austin. Is there nobody you can call to, like,
hey,
go
do you have the deeds in the Austin office?
Well, they're a very small startup, you know.
It's just them. They are the only people in the office.
It's just them and Melody. Yeah. It's really stupid. Also, actually, before we even actually even go to them going to the house, we actually have to cut away first. Again, I'm really glad I looked at my notes here and didn't just jump to where you were, because we missed a really, actually, sadly important scene to this movie. Because it's time for a new subplot. Also, I guess before we get to the subplot, they do leave Lila on the bus. Lila is told she has to stay on the bus, and she's very mad about it because she's just grumpy at everything Melody tells her to do.
Is this the part where we flash over to Sally Hardesty in her barn house?
Yep.
Skinning a pig?
Uh-huh. First we cut to the gas station clerk calling her, but yeah, we do cut to her, and she's like, now she knows, and Sally is now played by Owen Foray? Probably pronouncing that wrong. I think it's like a Finnish name or something like that. But yeah, but she is not.
We either needed more of her or less of her.
No,
I don't understand why they put the exact. Well, I agree that you either don't need her or you need her a lot more.
The real reason why
the amount she's in it is weird.
Definitely didn't need her, and what I think really makes it so much more egregious than the movie they were obviously copying when they did this, is the fact that Marilyn Burns passed away in 2014. So doing this thing at all, like, she's died. Like, it sucks. The actress is dead. You don't need her in this movie now. Like, and here's the thing. I honestly, like, I'm not here to, like, knock on, Olwen. Like, I'm sure she took a role. She did an okay enough job. Like, I'm not bashing her for taking the role. But, like, that automatically makes you not care much about her because you're like, well, that's not actually Sally. And then it's just a badly done ripoff of the Halloween 2018 thing. Halloween 2018 succeeded, so this movie went, well, let's do a legacy sequel where we bring a character back, but they couldn't bring anyone back.
It could have been cool if they did anything with her character, but they just do nothing with her. I think there's a version of this movie that you have Sally in there and it's really cool.
Maybe. I think my whole problem with it is Sally wasn't Laurie. Like, Laurie Strode is awesome. Laurie Strode kicks butt. Sally survives. And, like, there's nothing wrong with that. She literally, like, built the final girl archetype. Like, she did it first. Literally, Sally walked so Laurie could run initially. But, like, it's Laurie becoming this crazy person. Also, like, even though, yes, Halloween 2018 chooses to ignore all the other times Laurie had been in movies, Laurie had already been in 4 Halloween movies when they brought her back for that movie. So, like, she was an established character that people thought of when they thought of Michael. They go, oh, Michael and Laurie. You don't go Leatherface and Sally. You go, Leatherface kills people, I guess. You know, like, and also, like,
Yeah.
it's like, Lori becoming, like, Lori, like, fought back, like, aggressively. So her becoming this, like, gun-toting person who's, like, out to kill him made more sense than, like, Sally's left in the last movie as this broken, she
But see,
might
I
as well
kind of
be
like
dead
that
person.
I kind of like that as a she's taking the power back kind of thing. Like, and it's also, again, this movie doesn't do this, but I think there's a version of this movie where you look at Lila and you look at Sally, and they team up, and you kind of explore that sort of shared sense of trauma that could have been really interesting, like how trauma shapes us. They don't do that, but I do think there's a version of this movie where you have Sally and it's good.
There might
It's just not this movie.
I think it's an uphill battle, though. I think you're right. There could have been
I agree.
done, but
Well, I think making this entire movie is an uphill battle.
I mean,
I think
is
it's
it,
a
though?
bad
Like,
idea to make this movie.
I don't know if it is, though. Like, because, like, yeah, Texas Chainsaw 3D, for example, like, it sucked, but people enjoyed it. It was still like it can be a fun turn your brain off movie, which honestly, that's kind of my general thoughts on this movie. Is it's a bad movie that has enough fun moments that I kind of enjoyed it. Like, you don't need
that's
to
fair.
try to tell this. I don't know. I feel like it was such an uphill battle because of the things I said. Like, you can't get real Sally back. Sally as a character already didn't fit that archetype that makes sense for her to do this. And then here's the thing. Maybe there was a version where it was good, but we didn't get that. We got the worst choice on it. And I actually am somewhat echoing, but have a theory on why that we'll get to when there's another scene that makes me go, maybe this was intentionally really bad. Whoa. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Back at the orphanage, Melody and Dante split up because that's always the best thing to do. And they look for the deed. Melody goes upstairs while Dante stays downstairs. Melody finds it and gets real sad because that means they killed her, I guess. I mean, it's more of a manslaughter, but fair. But yeah, she feels real bad, but she gets stopped from feeling bad because she hears some floorboards creaking.
Wow.
And then somehow, after those floorboards creaked the next second, Leatherface is downstairs in the kitchen with Dante as he moves the pots, which alerts Dante to him. He walks over there. Also, I will say, I didn't mention it when it first happened because it was just kind of when they split off, we do get a couple shots of like Dante going through, and there's once again a really cool shot of like he walks in the kitchen, walks past a cleaver on a cutting board, and when he comes back into the room to look at the pots, the cleaver is gone before he's noticed Leatherface. Like, it's another one of those things where they do a really good job of like going like, hey, remember the cleaver? Did you see the cleaver? Because if you did, you know what's about to happen. If you didn't, here's a surprise kind of thing. And like, I really respect that type of like, I think that's the director who would do something like that specifically. Like the way a shot looks, I think is more the cinematographer, but the choosing on which shots to do like that, I believe would be the director. So huge props to
if you watch this
David.
movie on mute, probably a lot better.
I don't know. You still have there's still some rough stuff in there. But yeah, so he turns around, sees Leatherface, gets a cleaver to the face, and it's also once again really shot really well because he like tries to like escape out through this swinging door this time, which I kind of appreciated that they wanted to make a door be important, but not just do the sliding door like they've done in 8 other movies at this point. They went, hey, people let's make the door special here and make it really important to this scene. So yeah, the shot's really pretty. I like the way the door swings as they kill her. It's really cool.
Kill him.
I really like that shot.
It's really cool.
Kill.
Yeah, we think he's dead because he does come out and fall to the ground, and there is a giant pool of blood, and that should be enough blood that would have killed a person. But as you will find out in this movie, people don't die unless it's time for them to die.
Yeah.
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 I understand.
Then Melody starts to go downstairs because she heard all that, and she sees the body downstairs, and she also, like Sally Hardesty, decides to take a page from the Laurie Strode playbook, and she hides in the closet. Leather finds.
I think that's a good scene.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just
it's tense.
Yeah, I just wanted to make fun of it because I just made fun. like 2 scenes before I was just making fun of them copying Halloween, and then this shot is very Halloween. Like someone hiding in like a closet with slits on it. Like that is such like that's Halloween, not Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also just a horror trope in general.
Sure.
Hiding in the closet.
But Halloween started it. So
Yeah.
So once again,
We should watch Halloween instead of this movie.
we are just not now. We're watching it later this year.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. But yeah, so she hides in there. Leatherface comes into the closet, but doesn't go to that half of the closet because he stops and grabs a pretty dress from his mama, and he sniffs it like you do. He also puts some makeup on his mom because he wants her to look pretty. His mom face that he's wearing.
Yeah. Mama
Before
Jeannie.
he gets real mad at the party outside because he hears the PA system. He's like, "No one invited me to the party, and I'm mad," or something. No, but I joke like that, but really, it's honestly there is a point about pretty soon where Leatherface stops being Leatherface and just being Jason or Michael. But at this point, this is a very Leatherface reaction of there are people on my land. Like that is movie 1 how Leatherface should act when he sees intruders. I'm fine with this. There will be points where he does things in this movie where I go, no,
What?
Leatherface would never do that, and we will get to those. This one, it is. I am completely fine with him getting mad here. So he smashes the mirror. And he leaves the room for a couple minutes so Melody can move hiding spaces, and that's really the only justification for him to leave the room. I guess he's going to get his hammer, because Melody comes out, tries to scream at the bus outside, but she's inside, and there's loud music, and it starts to thunderstorm, so they do not notice her. But then she hears the floor creak. So she hides under the bed now, and Leatherface comes in with like a little sledgehammer deal. And he just starts hammering down a wall. Then downstairs, a still bleeding Dante, somehow alive, stumbles out into the rain.
He should not be alive.
No, not at all.
But we do get to see cool face gore.
Not quite. First, we have to watch people walk past him and be like, "Oh, what is he doing?" And honestly, once again, this is another one of those scenes where I want to give credit to this movie making Richter probably the best character in the movie. Richter at first is very mad at him. But the second he starts to realize he's not responding and there might be something wrong, he becomes a caring human being. Because Richter is such a well-written character.
He, ornery right up until the point where, he shouldn't be. And then he isn't.
Catherine also notices the dead body. Or not dead body. Well, he's not dead quite yet. But she notices his mangled face. And he dies in Richter's arms. It's really sweet. Then Richter takes charge and readies his gun, and he sends Catherine to the bus and tells her, "Don't you get out and call the cops," which she never does because no cops ever come.
Probably should have also given her the keys, but
Yeah, but and actually I saw this. I believe this was the Dead Meat podcast, and I will give them credit because I echo other people's opinions and thoughts. Not opinions sometimes, but thoughts. They're kind of justification for this scene that kind of makes sense. Is it really kind of falls into kind of his character of being kind of once again, then maybe trying to make a statement on kind of the good guy with a gun. He doesn't even see the need to have them have the keys because he's just going to go save the day because that's what
he's going to go
does.
take care of the threat.
And I think that's actually a really good take on it. And I'm yeah, I actually agree. I think that would be what honestly, with the way they've portrayed Richter, he probably would be that kind of guy who's no, I'm a good guy with a gun, so they don't even need to worry. This man and his mangled face, fair. I can handle whatever did that.
Yeah. Yeah, also, we get to see Dante's mangled face, which is, split open from the cheek, kind of like in the last Texas Chainsaw movie, but instead of with a bullet, it was with a cleaver.
Yeah, he's doing his best Jackson impression.
He's the new Leatherface.
Yeah, he's the new Jed.
I'm Leatherface. Then Richter goes into the orphanage. Upstairs, before he goes actually all the way, he starts to go in and he catches blood. Then we go upstairs and we see Leatherface, who finds his wall chainsaw. Woo! Yep. Which
Good old Mama Ginny hid that chainsaw on the wall.
Which,
when he
to be
came
fair,
into the
is kind
orphanage.
of hinted at earlier in the movie. Like, I mean, not why she'd do it, but she does say, "Don't go in my room." She doesn't want him to go get his chainsaw that she kept for some reason for him.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I think she probably should have just thrown the chainsaw out, but you know.
But maybe it's, to be fair, I mean, once again, me trying to play devil's advocate and justify realistically just bad choices in a movie, the answer could be that it was, evidence, and she was trying to protect him, and if she just threw it out, someone could find it, and then maybe find his fingerprints on it.
That's fair.
Maybe that's justification. But fun fact,
I could see that.
the first one of the movie, and one of the only ones, because, once again, thanks for this being a Netflix movie, there's not like a making of, because they don't do bonus features at all.
The same model as the one from the first movie?
Maybe more than that, according to, I believe it was, it was according to the director.
Is this the chainsaw?
The way he words it in an interview, I will read what he said, that sounds very much yes. According to an interview the director did on a YouTube, this is the OG chainsaw used in the first film. Now, you could maybe interpret that as him saying, like, yeah, this is the same type of model, maybe. Like, and he just used the wrong wording. But then he also, double, clarified in it, saying, and then it took us, 10 hours to get it going, so I think it might be true. Maybe 10 minutes, but I don't remember what he said. But he said, it took forever to actually get it, going. It's probably 10 minutes.
We lost the whole day of shooting so we could start a chainsaw.
Yeah. But yeah, so if maybe that could also be, they bought an old model of a chainsaw, and that's why it was hard to get going. Or it's actually a chainsaw used in the original movie, and if that's the case, that's really cool. I mean, it might not be, though, so who knows? And Leatherface is trying to start the chainsaw, but, it's been sitting there for 40 years, so it should never work. But at least the movie goes, hey, it doesn't work right now, as he just tries.
Especially since he didn't put any engine oil in there.
Well, even if
gas.
even if he had done any of that, it had been sitting there for 40 years, and I've heard people speculate and talk about if you did that with the chainsaw for 40 years, it would degrade the engine to the point where it could not work if you had left it with gas in it. So
yeah, the gas would be so bad.
Yeah, it would not be a thing. But hey, he tries to pull it, and Richter follows that pull cord sound upstairs, and actually, once again, kind of a really kind of clever just clever idea, I guess, for the character, for Melody. She tries to help alert him to it by moving the mirror with her foot, which gives him.
I really like that.
Here's the thing. I would have liked it if it meant anything. He still just gets immediately ambushed, so that it was pointless.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept to be hey, look, I'm going to try to. Leatherface probably won't notice this because he's kind of, not all there. So I'll do this and get your attention, and you'll know he's about to attack you. But instead, you know what happens? He just gets ambushed by Leatherface. And Leatherface proceeds to they get in a little bit of a fight back and forth for a little bit before Leatherface just swings that hammer and breaks his leg in a brutal the leg is not supposed to bend that way. It is not good. But Richter, he is pushing through the pain, and he kind of tackles him into the window and breaks it, but the window is barred, so they don't fall out.
Yeah.
And then while they're kind of struggling there, Leatherface looks over and sees the glass and goes, cool, this is my way of killing him. Because there's literally a shot of Leatherface looking at the glass. He is realizing, this is the way I will kill him now. And he pulls him into a glass shard, and his neck starts spurting. And he falls to the ground. And in his final, last living thing, he does make the right choice now. Because once again, Richter is actually a pretty well-written character. He's not fully evil like you might have thought he was going to be when you first start the movie. You expect them to really treat him like the bad guy. Honestly, part of me thought, hey, he's probably going to be related to Leatherface, because everyone you meet in these movies is supposed to be related to Leatherface. But yeah, he drops the keys in his final last breath. Before then, the thing that actually fully finishes him off is Leatherface just smashing in his head.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I like that.
He does bash in his head
Yeah.
pretty violently.
Leatherface then leaves the room. He doesn't fully leave. I thought he was about to like leave, but in like the next scene he comes right back to the room. So, but he does leave the room at the end of the scene.
Oh yeah, he goes to work on his chainsaw because it wasn't starting.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
Yeah. And then we cut to Sally. Woo! Remember, she's in this movie. Who shows up to the crash scene. And there's this really pretty shot in the headlights. It's kind of reminiscent of the first movie with Drayton and Nubbins. But it's honestly maybe even prettier in this movie because they have a better camera and whatnot. But it's really pretty. It's also like even after she walks past that, there's like over the corner there's like a storm. You can see the storm and you see like the lightning, and it's also just this next little sequence is just really pretty because this movie is really well shot. And then she goes into the field and she finds Virginia's skinned body or skinned head, I guess, but it's all on the body.
That looks cool too.
Yeah. And she's freaked out. She goes back in her, her police SUV and is like, and she like cries looking at the picture, and you're like, she's not even like an imposing character at this point.
Well, see, I liked that because I liked the idea of she projects herself as being this badass, but that's how she deals with the trauma of what happened to her.
Fair.
Which again is why I thought I really liked this movie the first time I watched it. Because I thought they were gonna, do something with that.
No.
And then they did.
No, she's just here because did you know that Halloween 2018 was a successful movie? Honestly, like this is pure like extra speculation. I have a different theory too that I'll get into later. But part of me wonders if this movie was already scripted and then Halloween 2018 came out and they went, well, what if we just add a Sally subplot in? And like it wouldn't surprise me.
It's possible because like it's possible that they did that because they have like 4 writers that are credited as story by, and that usually just means the first draft was written by them, and then another draft was written with just enough of the original script that you have to give them some kind of credit, but not hardly any of their work is in there.
Yeah.
So it might have been that.
Yeah. And, good old, Fede and his team were like, hey, let's do Halloween 2018. Because this movie's also produced by their studio. Like, it is... Let's be honest. He produced it. He helped write it. He, I believe, chose the director. Like, if you have blame on this movie, it's probably on Fede Alvarez. And that's fair. But, yeah. Back at the bus, Lila is with Catherine, and Catherine's protesting it, but Lila is done. She's like, I'm gonna leave the bus, because it's been too long since I've seen which is fair. I mean, it is. But just, most of the time we see Lila, she just seems so, like, angsty for the sake of being angsty is the way she feels written. And it's just like, all right. I mean, this Catherine seems to, like, be very, like, worried and is trying to tell you to stay, but she's like, let me just duck on your arm and leave, because I don't care. Because I'm a strong, independent school shooting survivor. And that's basically her whole character. But it's a well-written for those parts of it,
She's got good stuff in this movie. It's just they don't do anything. And I've got some problems with the way they do her character later in the movie.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
so disappointing.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
So she leaves the bus to go look for Melody. She finds Dante's body. Then we cut back to Melody, who is trying to escape. She's like doing honestly like kind of like both a very risky but smart plan of like trying to like go over the banister because she doesn't want to like be on any of like the creaky floorboards. And she somehow like jumps down almost silently. But it doesn't matter because Leatherface is looking right at her and just throws a hammer at her, knocking her down like half a flight of stairs, destroying the really weak floor apparently.
Yeah, I thought that would have killed her. I thought she was dead.
Makes sense.
Right there.
Especially because the way it's shot initially, it kind of looks like maybe he threw the hammer hard enough it went into her. It doesn't.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
He does get blasted by that.
Yeah, and we will be testing that at our first live event. Chris OG will be getting hit with a hammer halfway down a flight of stairs and falling back into a breakaway, floorboards. But yeah, so once she's down there, she's kind of crawling through the crawl space, and Leatherface is coming down the stairs with his now repaired chainsaw, and Melody is crawling away, and she gets like a chainsaw almost to her face, and she stops. She's able to like hide in this little corner, and it looks like, hey, he can't find her. And also, once again, I didn't even notice this on my first watch, but on my second watch through, the shot of like her looking up at like his foot that ends up covering the light, once again, beautiful, like so well shot. Then Lila shows up and starts yelling outside, and it causes Melody to kind of like, without really thinking about it, make a little bit of a noise, which lets Leatherface know where she is. So she has to start trying to run away from him, and we get this honestly like really cool like reverse Jaws almost with the chainsaw chasing her. I liked it. It was like, oh, that's cool.
I thought that was cool.
And then it ends in like not a cool way if you're Melody, because he runs into a pipe that just puts poop all over her. She is now literally covered in crap for the rest of the movie.
Pretty crappy situation, if you ask me.
Yeah. Also,
I'll put the at that right there.
How did this chainsaw get through a metal pipe?
A really powerful chainsaw.
And that's all I'm saying.
Now here's the thing. Maybe somehow I'll suspend my disbelief that it could do that. You know what it also couldn't do after that? Work after that.
Yeah.
Maybe somehow it did it.
I think it could work. It would just be significantly more dull.
Yeah, but he's still.
I don't know if it could work. I feel like the chain would break on the chainsaw.
And then he's still. Don't worry, he's still gonna stop a bus and cause a massacre with this same chainsaw. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after that, he hits the pipe. Leatherface stops trying to get her there. So but now Lila is like right at this like grate next to her, and she helps her out. And they run. They run towards the bus. They give the keys to the bus driver, and are like, all right, go. So the bus starts to drive, but it's immediately stopped by Leatherface's chainsaw.
Yeah.
The driver does not know he's in a horror movie, so he goes to investigate, and then his head is thrown back into the bus.
Yeah.
Which I had no problem with, but my dad points out is really probably not likely that Leatherface would have the aim to bank shot that off the door into the bus. And you know what? Fair.
True.
He's actually a basketball prodigy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, he was so tall, as a child, apparently in that first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Leatherface comes in, and it's time, baby. It's time that you've all been waiting for. We get the line from the trailer. Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
That I wanted to throw my TV out the window because I didn't see the trailer, so I didn't know about this line, and it's so bad. It's so bad. And even the thing before it, where everybody pulls their phones out, dude. If this was 2012, that might have played, but I don't even think that would have played in 2012. Honestly, it was so bad. Why? Who would say that?
No one.
And then pulling the phones out, that's not funny.
I agree. It's not funny. Work. I would argue that I think, and honestly, when you see like all these like horrible things that happen, that everyone just pulls their phone out to record. I think people would pull their phone out for it. But,
I think so too, but they wouldn't synchronously do it.
Yeah.
In a way that's it's such a played out joke.
And then it's also just like, this is kind of what we kind of hinted at earlier. This isn't how that phrase works. You don't get canceled for murder.
No.
That's not a thing.
And
you don't go like,
would say that.
That Jeffrey Dahmer guy, I think we might have to cancel him. No, I think we just have
so
to
dumb.
arrest him. Depending on your
Yeah.
state, maybe kill him. But no, I don't think canceling is the word I'll use. I didn't write down the name of him, but this line is actually apparently by one of the producers. He's the one who actually said the line in the movie. So
I don't understand how this line gets through that many people. Because, like, to make a movie, it has to go through so many people before it gets to the final product. And there were so many people that had to be like, yeah, that's a good line. What?
I think the answer is, and I'm not saying it's a good answer, but I think that the answer is, like a lot of the choices I think they do is, I think they're trying to, and failing to, parody the real world a little bit. Like, we have like we can establish, maybe like Richter is the good guy with a gun, and they're making fun of that. They're making fun of people who want to bring up cancel culture all the time. Like, I'm not saying they did a good job, but I think that's why it made it through all those people, because they're like, oh yeah, you're right, we are making this smart, witty parody of common culture.
If it was more heightened, I think that would be... I would be into that.
I mean, isn't it though? I mean, like, I'm not saying I like it.
I don't
but
think it's
isn't it like
enough.
they all
I think
pull their phone out in unison, like you pointed out, and like are all live streaming it on their apps with people going like, "This is fake. This is fake" in the comments.
If the whole movie was like that, then I would be on board for it. Because if they're trying to make it a horror comedy, and I'm not saying that if you're making a horror, it needs to be entirely serious.
No.
You can have jokes in a horror movie, and it can be really good. But I think if you're going to try to introduce elements like that, then you need to... the whole thing needs to be heightened to that extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't disagree. I just think that that's the thing. Because I think there's a lot of... Once again, I think they do a very bad job at it, but I think there's... Most of, like, that first act, you could argue, is them, you know, parodying influencer culture, going like, wouldn't it be stupid if some idiots thought they could just buy a town and gentrify it? Like, that's, like, I'm not saying that it's well done, but I do think there is an element, and possibly, and here's the thing, there's also a possibility that they just threw this line in because for some reason they thought it was good. Like, there is the chance that they were playing this serious, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they failed at making a biting commentary.
I think that's most likely what it is. It's just they don't do enough of that for it to
fit.
For it to fit.
No, you're right. But yeah, he then massacres all of them. I'm not going to describe most of what happens because it's just him killing a bunch. But I will bring up a couple things.
Slicing and dicing some folks.
The one, like, there are two kills that I will specifically bring up because they are both really funny and kind of cool. The second one, the first one is we get a chainsaw kill where he stabs it through the back of a guy and makes it stick out of his crotch, and then he stabs that guy into a girl, making it look like they're playing harmonica, guys. Isn't that crazy?
The first time I watched this, I laughed at it, and then the second time when I realized the movie wasn't as good as I thought it was, I was like, "Oh, that's really dumb. I don't like this."
I think part of why I think it's extra, I really don't like it, is if all of the kills in this little sequence right here were all like creative and silly, sure, do that. But like the rest of it is honestly the least fun Texas, like, Chainsaw Massacre we've got. Like, this scene is, like,
even though, by definition, it is the most Texas Chainsaw Massacre we've ever had.
But it's just so bleak. Like, this scene, like they're in this same scene, we have Lila getting, like, PTSD, like, in this scene. Like, this scene is bleak, and like they're drawing the they're like saying, look at this connection, this is awful, this is murder, but then they're also like, haha, they looked like they were doing it, and it's like you can't do both in literally the same scene.
This movie definitely has a tone problem.
Yes. Like, and here's the thing, either one is fine. If you want to be really like a bleak, like, the real world is terrible, and we're going to make a horror movie about it and show you hey, you're not willing to address the gun violence issue, we'll make it a chainsaw so you are willing to look at it. Cool. Mm-hmm. If you want to make a Hatchet level over the top gore fest for the sake of fun gore, cool. You can't do both in the same scene. It does end with, once again, kind of a bleak one still, but we have Catherine being cut in half as she tries to escape.
Which no one does any sooner, and that just feels bizarre. Yeah, everyone's first instinct is to, as soon as they see a man with a chainsaw, pull out their phone and not like, oh yeah, I should get out of this bus, I guess.
Yeah.
Feels like a weird reaction.
Yeah.
No one has fight or flight. It is stand there with phone.
And this is also kind of the first time I've noticed it, and it's honestly this whole sequence, and kind of a couple other sequences we get later, is the point where I noticed, like, there was like a transition, it almost felt like, where they started doing more CGI kills. Like, some of those earlier ones felt more, like, practical, and maybe there were some, like, CGI elements to, like, help them, but, like, they did a better job of, like, mixing them if they were using, you know, it. And, like, I do know that, like, there was, like, reportedly, like, 200 gallons of fake blood used in this scene, like, practically, but also, like, all of the kills were done digitally, and I could tell. And, like, here's the thing. I get it. I get why it's done, but it's still, I go like, I want to see cool practical kills. And we didn't get it here. And
I think that's kind of the whole point of a Texas Chainsaw movie. I'd rather you have 3 or 4 kills, but they're all really well done and practical, rather than have you kill 16 people and have it look bad, you know?
Yeah. Agreed. Lila and Melody are the only ones to escape. They do that by hiding in the toilet and then escaping out the roof hatch. Melody isn't able quite to get out before Leather is almost able to break in because, you know, he does start to saw the door. You know, look what Leather did to the door. It's not the same because Jim Cedo just disappeared. I don't know where he is. He's not in the timeline anymore. But yeah. But she's able to get away though by stabbing him with the chainsaw corkscrew that Lila had given her earlier, which I actually thought was kind of a little. I had forgotten about that corkscrew at this point, so like when they brought it back, I was like, "Oh, cool! That's her way out of this." Yeah,
that's a good callback.
They then run away and are picked up by their savior. It's Sally in a police SUV, but actually, I lied. Sally is not their savior because she doesn't want to leave. Because she needs to kill Leatherface.
As evil dies tonight.
No, that's the wrong. No.
Oh, that's a different movie.
But yeah, I've been hunting him 50 years, and I'm not even gonna let you guys leave because I'm gonna use you as bait until I don't immediately.
Yeah, and a scene right after this where I tell you to leave.
But whatever. She's like, no, you have to stay in this back seat. I'm going up there to kill him. I'm going to kill Leatherface.
Yeah, he sure isn't. Maybe.
This is the point where I hate as much again. Oh, Sally's back, so it's terrible. Also, I don't get wrong. It doesn't matter. But she very much says, like, not, I've been hunting him for almost 50 years. She said, I've been hunting him for 50 years. It's only been 49 years, Sally. Settle down. Someone's over-exaggerating.
I'll let her round out.
He's only a year off.
Well, then she needs to
say,
was like 46 about 50
like,
years.
Well, chill.
But also, this movie was shot in, like, 2020, which means it was probably meant to only be 47 years after the original guys, so...
Oh, okay.
Sounds like a big flaw. The biggest flaw in the movie.
Nah, I'm still caught up on him being in an orphanage.
I'm not at all, and don't understand why you are.
He wasn't a child.
But I think a nice woman who could see a kid with or a 20-something-year-old dude with special needs and choose to take him into her orphanage, even if it's officially against protocol. Here's the thing. I think there are a lot of things to complain about the movie. I don't think what I'm jokingly doing or what you're seriously doing are either of the things to complain about this movie for.
I'm going to complain about it anyway.
I know you are. So she leaves them in the car, and she goes upstairs to kill Leatherface. She got her shotgun in hand. She enters Leatherface's room, but he doesn't react, and she doesn't kill him
on site for some reason.
No, because she wants him to remember.
Say my name.
She's like, "Do you remember Kirk and I don't remember the other ones, Franklin and Pamela and the fourth Jerry, I think."
And of course he doesn't, because it's been 50 years almost, and he's got developmental issues.
Or does he? Because in this movie he starts to really do a really good job of planning out things and.
Yeah. Well, only in this last 15.
I don't understand why he doesn't kill her.
Well, because he hears Melody screaming, and he.
I guess, but even
Melody.
still, he could just right before he leaves,
He sees the saw and is like, this might be a fight, and she's not shooting me, so I just say the gun. Sorry, the saw. He sees her gun, is like, she's not shooting me for some reason, and I don't want to fight right now, so I'll just leave her if she's going to let me leave.
I guess so.
This interaction really makes sense.
No, it's terrible. I'm joking. It's terrible. It's bad on both parts.
The interaction itself could make sense.
Nah,
but
it's stupid.
I'm okay with the interaction.
I'm not.
I'm okay with it.
I hate it. I hate everything Sally does in this movie.
It just really doesn't make sense to me that he doesn't kill her.
You know why it's the worst? And here's the thing. Let's pretend that there's a reason why Leatherface doesn't kill her. She goes, "You don't remember?" And he walks away. And then a minute later, she's ready to shoot him.
Yeah.
In the next shot, she's crazy gun. Let's kill him. It's like,
to be fair, I think that's a moment of realization, and she's realizing over the last 50 years she's been chasing somebody that doesn't even know who she is.
But instead, it got her.
And it's
killed,
just that kind of she's in shock right there.
Yeah, it's bad.
In a better movie, I think it would have been really good.
Yeah.
But again, this movie's bad, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she yells at him about the names. He leaves the room to go kill Melody and Lila. But then before we get down there, though, we do get a little quick scene of, Lila saying that, she was supposed to die in the school and death followed her. Melody tries to tell her that she won't let Leather kill her. But before she's able to finish, Leatherface immediately breaks the window and kills them. No, I'm just kidding. That would have been great if we just ended there. I won't let him kill you, and she immediately dies. That would be fun. That's a fun horror comedy moment when they don't do that. He does break in. He tries to pull Lila out. Looks like he might be about to chainsaw her foot off, I guess, before Sally comes in, guns ablazing, going, "Woo! I'm here, Leatherface!"
I like that.
I hate this movie at this point.
I liked her coming out and just going. I thought that was fun. I thought it was fun.
I think it's fair. I didn't. Because I was so done with Sally the second she showed up. Because I was like, this isn't good. I
kept hoping they would do something interesting with her.
I just went.
But I liked that one. I liked that scene with her. I thought it was kind of. I don't know. I just like when people get unhinged like that.
Fair.
I think it's funny.
It's fair. But yeah. And then after this, she goes, "All right, you can leave now," and throws them the keys as Leatherface ran off after that one shot. "All right, I used you as bait, even though I technically didn't need bait. I could have just went up there and killed him. But here you go. Now you can leave. I'm done with you." What? Okay. All right, Sally. Cool. So they start to leave, and Sally kind of walks around and trying to find Leatherface, and she hears him in an alleyway. And he turns off his saw, and it's like, oh no. And then she hears him coming, I guess, because it says on the screen, running footsteps approach. I couldn't hear them, but apparently she's supposed to be able to.
I didn't hear it either.
Yeah, but the captions did tell me there were running footsteps, so she knows he's running towards her. And she takes a shot, she misses, hits a pipe, then shoots again, and that also misses him and only hits his chainsaw. And then he gets up on her, and she goes to stab him once, and then he sticks his chainsaw through her gut, and then...
Which somehow doesn't kill her?
Yeah, he lifts her off the ground, mulches her in the air on him, like blood rains down on him. And then in the moment that I will say, once again, I believe it was the Dead Meat Podcast where I first heard it, but I definitely loved their theory on it. He literally tosses her in the garbage. Which is why I think this whole Sally plotline was them not liking Halloween 2018 and saying, we're going to make fun of it.
I don't know about that.
And now here's the thing. I think that's bad filmmaking. I can
kind of see it.
I think it's bad because it means you just made a bad movie. Bad. You made a bad movie to do that. But I think, part of me thinks that it was intentional. Because why else do you throw her in the trash? They went legacy character in the trash. It's not like they just threw her. He throws her in the garbage. And here's the thing. I might be looking too deep into it. And that's fair. But that, in my mind, ever so slightly justifies this horrible Sally Hardesty plotline as if it was literally horrible on purpose. Is it still a bad choice and it made a bad movie because of it? Yes. But I kind of respect the balls of going, we hate Halloween 2018 so much, we're going to do it worse and then throw it in the trash.
Movie on purpose.
Yeah, and throw it in the garbage. That he did that.
Just made a bad movie out of spite for another movie.
I want to believe that's what happened.
That seems pretty insane.
But yeah, she's now in the trash. And Melody tries to run him over rather than just leaving. But she only gets to graze him when he throws the chainsaw at the windshield. The SUV crashes into Richter's garage. In the crash, Melody gets like some like pipe, some shrapnel of some sort stuck into her leg. It's another one of those situations in a movie where you go, oh no, that's in her leg, right next to like her like a really important artery there, and you're like, she's probably done for the movie, like to the point where, you know, Lila tries to go like, let me get it out. She's like, no, just run, just go. But then guess what? It means nothing at all. Mm-hmm. It just takes her out of the movie for the next 5 minutes, if that.
That really should have been where she died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah.
It really
she should have died in the SUV because that would have been funny. And I like funny kills. I won't let him kill you. Chainsaws her head off there instead of at the end of the movie.
Whoa!
Sorry. Did I spoil this garbage? That's not good. I actually don't think garbage is stronger than I honestly feel.
But Sally Hardesty is
garbage. Sally Hardesty. Her plotline was garbage, and it's where it belongs. Once again, I will, concede that other Chris is right. They could have made a good plotline maybe with Sally Hardesty. They didn't, and this one is trash and is in the trash where it belongs. But yeah, so she tells Lila, just run, don't stop running, Forrest.
Yeah, just like that.
But yeah, and then she runs. And also, before she runs, she also tells her that you're strong and you never needed me. Remember that line earlier that was delivered terribly and we all thought was bad? We're going to make a callback to it as now I've realized that you don't need me, even though we never explained why you did need me, because that wasn't actually a plot point, just a throwaway line to make you mad and go hang out with Richter.
That was something that really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's like, you don't have a line featured that prominently and then have it mean nothing.
Yeah.
That just, and they did the same thing with the whole movie is building, we'll get to this in a second, but the whole movie is building to Lila's the one that kills him. That's what it feels like the entire movie is building to. And that,
we'll get to that. We're very close.
We'll get there.
Let's
get there.
We're almost there.
Because now Lila ran away, and now Leatherface shows up, and Melody is apologizing to him, and she's like, I'm sorry that we killed your mom. I'm so sorry. She didn't deserve to die. But then Leather's like, all right, I accept your apology. Here's my chainsaw. I'm about to kill you. But Lila didn't run away, because she gets his attention by saying a stupid line that I won't repeat, because monetization issues and, podcasts and all that. But, like, she calls him a leather effer instead of Leatherface. Ho, spicy Lila.
Clever.
But it's terrible. It reminds me of in Texas Chainsaw 3D, Welcome to Texas, MFer. Similarly bad lines. But the difference is, unlike...
Get him, cuz.
Yeah, you do your thing, cuz. That's also terrible. This movie also has terrible lines, just like that movie. But this movie doesn't. That movie had more practical effects, so I liked it more. But yeah, but then she gets his attention, and she's got that assault rifle in her hands, but it doesn't shoot. And, it's either because she'd never put the clip back in, or she didn't know how to put it in. There's a chance. Like, they don't really show the gun ever in a way where if it's fully she's an idiot and just picked up the gun she watched him, like, unload earlier. Or if she just, fair enough, doesn't know guns and wasn't able to load it properly. I want to give Lila the benefit of the doubt that it was that, but they never show it. So you could interpret it as the other way.
I think the clip is in the gun.
Is it? Okay, that's good.
I think so.
That does make me happy because
I might be wrong.
Like I've established, Lila is one of the better but still flawed characters in this movie. So I would hope they didn't make her look that stupid. But yeah, excuse me. But yeah, so she gets attention and can't shoot him though with Richter's gun. Then Leather starts to chase her and he catches her. And knocks her down, or she falls down, I guess. I don't remember exactly. And is about to, like, chainsaw her down when somehow, as we've already hinted at, still alive after being mulched, Sally Hardesty, from the trash, shoots him.
So dumb.
Also, here's the thing. Let's pretend that somehow Sally is alive. I'm not a gun guy. But she was really far away with a shotgun and hits him. That's not how shotguns work.
When previously, at almost point blank, she had missed with a shotgun.
But now she's almost dead, so she's better at shooting guns.
Also, she's a Texas Ranger, so she has spent a good portion of her life shooting guns.
No one said she was good at her job.
Right up until she's about to die.
Chris, if we know anything about how the writers think about her in this movie, she is literal trash. She was trash at her job, too.
It's fair.
Leather then goes to hide in the theater. Then Lila goes over and has a little heart-to-heart with Sally, and as she loads the shotgun and tells her, "You gotta stop running. You'll never stop running." It's the closest thing to what, other Chris wanted for a plot line here of, don't run from your trauma like I did for 50 years, even though I didn't actually run for 50 years. This whole plot line actually makes no sense if you actually think about it. I chased him for 50 years. I did not run. I guess she ran the day of, because, she had no weapons or anything, so she should have just died there that day. And you know what? Lila thought that too. So I guess that's actually the moral of the story. If you're ever in a traumatic situation, don't survive. Have survivor's guilt. You deserved to die. That's the message of the movie. Not my message, in case YouTube gets mad at that obvious sarcastic joke there. Yeah. So now, Lila, she takes the shotgun and goes to the theater and tries to find Leatherface. After, honestly, just a touch too long of her searching around with literally nothing finding it, it's to the point where you're like, is she gonna do something? She sees the shape of Leatherface and hears the saw. She walks over there. She opens the curtain there, and it's like a standee from an old movie and the chainsaw on the ground, because Leatherface is setting full traps now with shadows to trick people into letting him catch them.
He is now Jason.
Like Jason in the reboot, to the level where people complained about how much he did things. I liked it, but this isn't even just Jason. This is smart hunter Jason, and this is Leatherface. Who, I love Leatherface. I think he's a great character in that first movie. But he's a sympathetic, special needs brute who does what he has to survive and isn't, and like, oh, someone came in my house, I bludgeon them to death. Not, I hunt them and set traps for them. Because that's not Leatherface.
No, it's not. And neither is something that is going to happen in the very near future.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Lila takes the shotgun. Oh, I already read that. And yeah, so now Leatherface does get a chance to tackle her into this moonlit pool of water in the middle of the theater. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it's like a derelict theater. Like, it could have happened, but it just feels a little too full of water for just something that's naturally occurred with rain over the years.
Yeah,
and that water's really deep.
Yeah,
presumably drought-ridden ghost town.
Mm-hmm. Well, they get storms all the time.
Out in a desert.
Yeah, they get storms all the time. Or this all happened in this one thunderstorm. This much water filled in.
Yeah.
You decide which theory fits how this happened, because neither of them make sense. But yeah, they're now tackled into the pool. And then Lila surfaces first, but soon after, Leather, like, springs out of the pool. Like, Jason in a dream sequence levels of springing out. Like, even Jason can't jump out of the water like this in the actual movies, only in the dream sequences at the end. Jumps out of the water and then throws his chainsaw after her. Which, yeah. Honestly, I don't mind the throwing of the chainsaw. But he does. I do hate the springing out of the water and the trap he set that started all this.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And that, like, clips her feet. Never does anything enough damage to actually hurt her in any way, because, characters don't get hurt in this movie. Unless they die. Unless it's time for them to die, then they get hurt. But yeah, and she's down on the ground.
Keep in mind, he's doing all this as, like, a 60, 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I was like, this guy is pretty athletic for
also,
60 or 70.
He's definitely pushing 70. Because 60 would make him 10 in the first movie, because this is 50 years later, according to Sally Hardesty. So...
in a timeline that makes any sense at all.
He's at least 70.
He's probably like 70, maybe 75.
I'm willing to make him 70. I'm willing to say he was 20 in the first movie. I am. I'm willing, there was nothing about his character that had
20
to be
is probably the most reasonable.
Heck, even for the sake of justifying the orphanage, he could be 17 in that first movie, and he was just a bulky 17-year-old. It's possible.
He's just 68.
Yeah, he's... And even if you actually remember, it's technically only 47 years, so he's 65. Still way too old for this.
Yeah.
No matter what way, whatever, extra bit of leverage or leeway we give to this movie to make it justifiable, it's still not.
Yeah. Still nowhere close to justify.
We can move the goalpost as far back as possible, and it's still not believable. And then Leather, kicks the gun away from her, and Lila's PTSD starts up, but she is saved at the last minute by Melody, who is jumps on...
Not dead somehow.
Yeah, she's not dead somehow, and not injured enough that she can't jump on a 6'7" guy's back and get him in a chokehold.
Mm-hmm. This bothered me so much because it's the whole movie is Lila, you can't take care of yourself. Lila, you can't take care of yourself.
Well, she can't.
And then Lila even says that. And then the movie's just everybody was right.
Did you not hear what I said about Lila and Sally? She should have died. And so should have Sally. Don't run, die. That's the message of the movie.
It bothers me so much because they're building, the whole movie is building to this point where it should be
Lila overcomes.
Saves Mel.
Yeah.
It should either Lila needs to save Mel or Mel needs to die. There's no reason at all that Mel needs to come in and to save the day. She shouldn't have this prominent of a part.
Well, don't you worry, because they're gonna pretend to fix that for a second before they don't immediately after. Because Leatherface throws her off and is about to saw her when Lila finally gets the courage to stand up with a gun. She's taking back what hurt her. She shoots him with her gun twice, and now the gun has no more ammo. And but Leatherface actually didn't die. And also, it's like a shot where I want to specifically call out these shots because it is so irritating the way this is shot. Especially is she steps out of the way right before Leatherface is about to shoot him, like steps into camera, shoots him twice. Her gun has no more ammo, and then they immediately do the exact same shot where Melody walks around and is now standing in front of her and uppercuts him with the chainsaw.
Yeah. Why does Mel get the last shot? Mm-hmm. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, technically Leatherface gets the last shot, but that's a spoiler for a scene from now.
Yeah. God, I hate the ending of this movie.
Yeah.
But this scene, in a vacuum, this scene is fine.
I disagree because of the repeating the shot back to back really irritated me. No matter what.
That's fair.
That's fair. It's like she steps in as the hero, fails, and then immediately you do the same shot of Melody stepping in as a hero.
I think it's fine, but just in a vacuum, I think the scene is mostly good. Other than that, I think the scene is good. Yeah. Other than that, in a vacuum, but then once you put it in the movie, it makes no narrative sense, mm-hmm. and dramatically, it just doesn't make sense for Mel to have for Mel to kill him. It doesn't make, well, I guess not kill him, but...
Yeah. Well, should have killed him because, he took a chainsaw to the neck.
Mm-hmm. Well, she only hit him she grazed him on the chin, to be fair.
And then he sinks into the pool.
Oh, and drowns? And they watch him drown?
Yeah, and then drowns.
Right. Definitely, yeah.
But did we mention he's Jason now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is Jason, and he cannot be killed.
Yeah,
he is actually immortal.
They hug in the really pretty moonlight, because, once again, shot really pretty. This movie's really pretty at times. Then they go outside.
And they go and get in their cool self-driving car.
Yeah. Well, first, for no reason whatsoever, Lila grabs Sally's hat. I just feel like they need to bring it up because there's a shot of her doing it. Like, they draw attention to it. It's pointless, but I will bring it up because the movie
She's the new Sally now.
Felt like it was important.
It's so dumb.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It's so dumb.
Yes.
Lila, in a better movie, could have been cool.
Sure.
Could have been a cool moment if you had done
more development.
I mean, I still argue that it's still weird.
One conversation. They had one conversation
where she told her not to run.
The new stuff. It's so dumb.
Yeah. So Melody and Lila get in the car, turn on the autopilot, and they start to leave after a fun little conversation about how Lila's ready to move here now. Silly Lila. And they start to leave when Leather pulls Melody out of the car. He chainsaws off Melody's head as Lila screams as she's driven off by the AI.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Then Leatherface does
her body sticking out of the sunroof.
And then Leatherface does a little chainsaw dance as we go to the credits.
Yeah.
The ending made me so
mad.
I was actually praising the movie before it happened. I was like, that's kind of a cool thing that they decided to do. Two of them survive, and now they can their relationship is closer now or whatever. I was like, you know what, that's kind of cool. I kind of see what they did there.
Yeah.
And then they just immediately ruin it.
I don't actually. Here's the thing. I actually really like this part of the ending. I hate what led to this part, but I like the swerve of Melody still dying, and I also really think
hated it.
I love Melody getting driven off screaming as like she's the new Sally, but now it's the modern version of it, so she's being driven off by the AI, and she can't stop herself because I don't know. I liked it. I understand why someone could hate it. I liked it a lot. I like this scene a lot. Other than the really crappy,
I thought it was
CGI head cutting off. I didn't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like CGI
I thought
kills.
It was bad. Yeah,
but I liked it. I liked that ending. It was pretty cool. But don't worry, the movie's not over. If you waited till after the credits, we get a post-credit scene where Leatherface walks up to the old farmhouse from the first movie. Glad you waited
I
8
didn't even
minutes of
watch
credits
it.
for that.
I clicked off of the movie immediately. I knew there was probably a post-credit scene. I was so mad by the ending. I was like, no, I'm done.
I fast forwarded to the credits because I was like, I
I'll-
feel like there's probably a post credit scene, and I was like, I gotta be able
I'll
to talk
tell
about
you.
it.
I'll tell you, when it happened,
Mhm.
I thought it was such a bad decision by the movie for them to unkill him that I thought, and I gave this movie too much credit again, I thought that they were going to have Lila wake up from a dream and like the events of the movie still happened, but that's like her, like what she's going to have to deal with going forward. So I was like, is that what they're going to do? And then the movie just ended. I was like, are you kidding me? I gave this movie too much credit at every turn.
I really enjoy watching my friends be angry. Because also, like, we'll switch now to thoughts and opinions on the movie overall. We would know our general thoughts, but, I will say, I don't know if I mentioned it on here, if I mentioned to them before we recorded. I did watch this movie twice. I watched it once and absolutely hated it. Thought it was terrible. Then I watched the Dead Meat podcast as well as a video by Cody Leach where he reviewed it, and neither of them gave this movie high praises because no one in their right mind would, but they did all give it the kind of concept of it was stupid fun. It's bad, but I enjoyed myself, and I was like, what did I miss? So I watched it again, and I will say, on a second viewing, expecting to hate it still, but wondering if, hey, maybe there's something really good here, I did enjoy it more. I don't love it. I've listed off as we went through this all my flaws I saw in it, and the things I liked. And my general thoughts are it was a kind of fun time at times. The story was terrible, but I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it as much as I think either of my co-hosts of the podcast do. There's definitely as we go through this order, I feel like we're gonna have levels of hating it. When I go to the next person, I think they'll dislike it more than me, and then we'll go to the last person, and whoa, I wonder how they feel about it. But yeah, overall, it's not good, but I can see why someone might turn off their brain and just kind of enjoy it. I do also think something I want to bring up here is something that I have noticed as I've been watching horror movies for this podcast is I think we're doing horror movies wrong. I'm not going to change it, and this is how we're going to always do the podcast, but we're overanalyzing horror movies because, we're a podcast, and there's an element of, yes, every movie should try to be at least good, and some horror movies even are going to be high art. But also, it's kind of like food. Yeah, there might be a horror movie that's, filet mignon, but also, Taco Bell's really good. It sucks, and I can tell you all the reasons why it's terrible, but I like Taco Bell. And I think a lot of horror movies are Taco Bell, and it's not going to change. I just want to acknowledge it here, is we're looking at it with a lens of, why isn't this fine dining? And it's because it's not supposed to be. Shut off your brain, get drunk like you are when you're eating Taco Bell, and just enjoy the movie, you idiot.
I disagree. But when we get to actually no, I'll go ahead and say it. I don't necessarily think it's comparable to, because I think there is it's the difference between watching a high budget movie and a low budget movie. Because if I'm watching a high budget movie, there's a certain level of, I have raised expectations. Yeah. If we're talking about a low budget horror movie, then yeah, I'm more willing to, and I'm not against stupid fun movies. I love some stupid fun movies. But I think there's a way to do that well versus doing that poorly. The Fast and the Furious franchise. I think those are really good, turn your brain off, I'm not expecting high art kind of movies. But then you have stuff like Transformers 2, which is trying to be that and does it less successfully. So I think there's a way to do turn your brain off in a way that's good. And I don't think this movie is that.
Oh, I want to stand by. I still don't think this
Personal.
movie really gets to that point either. But it's a thing I thought I've had on a lot of like horror movies in general. Of like, I think in general, and it's not going to change because here's the also thing: doing this podcast has made me more cynical and more critical of everything I watch. Like, it's not going to stop. But I do think
Yeah.
there is an element of we're the problem. Like,
I don't know about
some
that.
of these movies, yes, some of these movies are just bad. But like, also some of these movies, like, it wasn't trying to be great. It was trying to be passable, and it did that. This one I don't think got
this movie
there.
was trying to be good. I think this movie was trying to be good.
Yeah. Well, or it was trying to be
And I
bad. I
think-
still stand by that theory. That is still my main theory, is this movie
I-
was purposely a bad movie because they were making fun of Halloween 2018, and the whole movie was parodying something. Either Halloween 2018 or Gen Z/millennial culture and the culture war stuff.
If that's the case, I think it did a horrible
I
job.
agree.
I think if that was what they were going for, then this movie's even worse than I think it is.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw in my 2 cents here and probably just wrap up my thoughts and opinions on this movie as well. But I think the whole problem with this movie and other movies where you're expecting fast food and that even doesn't manage to get delivered is that it's so tonally inconsistent. Like, if you have a movie where the tone is consistently like wacky and goofy and over the top, then like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I am absolutely willing to accept that. Like, a lot of the Friday the 13th movies, I think, are pretty over the top and wacky, and that's just like, they are making schlock and they're okay with it, and that's what they're going for. Do I like those movies? Not really, but I'm not gonna. I can't dock any more points off of them for what they did. But this movie is like so tonally inconsistent and so all over the place. They're like, here's this super serious like issue of school shootings and gun violence. And also, oh, look at these guys on the bus, cancel culture. Oh, isn't this goofy? That's a silly reaction to a man with a chainsaw. And it's just like, they just miss pretty much everything they're trying to do with the story. I will say I would like to praise this movie, and we've already mentioned it for like the direction it went with a lot of the cinematography. I think a lot of the shots were really pretty and really well done and well thought out. But yeah, the storyline is terrible. The dialogue is cringy at so many different points in the movie. And it really just feels like they didn't know what they wanted to do with this movie. Yeah. But the kills were also cool. At parts.
Yeah. I think there were like 3 really good scenes in this movie. And I think if that was... I agree with Chris. Like, I think the tone is really the biggest problem with this movie. I like those kind of really schlocky movies that are... It's just meant to turn your brain off and just look at how cool this looks, I think the Evil Dead movies, to an extent, are that. And those are some of my favorite movies of all time. But then you have a movie like this where they are, like Chris said, they're trying to take these super serious topics and expect you to take them seriously, and then they'll have a moment where a guy says, "Oh, if you do anything, you're gonna get canceled, bro." It doesn't work. I think there's 2 good versions of this movie. I think there's the stupid fun version of this movie where they do all of the, you do anything, you're gonna get canceled, bro. And then you just have Leatherface being a generic villain, slashing people up. And that's a fine movie. That's fun. I'll watch it, have a good time, and leave. And I think there's a version of this movie where they take it really seriously, and they have Lila and Sally joining up, and they have a lot of conversations about trauma and it's a really interesting exploration of that. But the version of the movie we got is just frustrating. The first time I watched it, I thought it was pretty good, and there were some scenes that I really hated. And then the second time I watched it, I thought it was just bad. It was just bad. There's a couple of good scenes, but it was bad. But like we said, cinematography looks good. You should watch this movie on mute. Yeah, I give it 4 chainsaws out of 10.
I gave it a chainsaw corkscrew out of 10.
Were we rating the movies now? We've never done that before. Is this a new precedent?
I don't know.
Oh, crap. Well, something that is a precedent and something we've done a couple times we've done, franchises is now we're going to go back around in a circle. Our last, Chris will have less to say because, he's watched less of the movies, and that's fair, and he's better for it in life. But yeah, we're going to talk about our general thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw franchise because this is our last episode on it for now. I mean, the movie,
thank goodness,
a lot of people watched it, and there was a post-credit scene, and Leatherface is alive somehow, so there'll probably be another one at some point. But
I hope not.
Yeah, that's fair. My thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise is a really weird one because I love like a couple of the movies, and then I kind of like a couple of the other movies that I can admit are bad, like 3 and Texas Chainsaw 3D are both movies that I really enjoyed for what they were, which was pure garbage that had terrible dialogue that also had some cool kills, and I went, that's fun, cool. But then there's something I want to just address is for some reason this franchise has been like the hardest to watch. And I don't know why. And not like it's just like it's a situation where like each week I would dread having to watch the next Texas Chainsaw franchise movie. And I don't get it because I also like the remake and I like the beginning more than the remake. Like there's only like 1 to 2 movies that I hated in this franchise. But somehow, I just dreaded every next movie. And, like, I don't get it. Because, like, if you look at this franchise, honestly, next to some of the other franchises that I really liked, I don't see why there's such a discrepancy in the way my brain viewed them. Like, the Friday the 13th franchise, for example, there's a few that I really like, a bunch that I think are okay, and some that I really hate. That's, like, the same description I would give to this franchise. Yet, that time, I was looking forward to every new installment. And now this franchise, I'm going, cool, Texas Chainsaw Massacre again. Yay. And I don't know why. Because, like, there's an argument that can be made that, like, they're all the same movie. But that's the same thing you could say about the Friday the 13th franchise for the most part. But I still loved those movies for the most part. Like, I don't get it. I will stand by, like, there are some movies in this franchise that are great. I think Texas Chainsaw 1 and 2 are great movies. 1 better than 2. 1 is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Like, it is top 4 for me. Like, it is great. Like, I love it. But it's just, as a franchise, for some reason, even though it's like, it's worse than the sum of its parts, somehow, as a franchise. And I can't really quantify why. Like, any individual movie, there's, like, 4 and, like, Leatherface in this one that I really didn't enjoy for the most part. And, like, that's about it. Yet somehow, I don't like this franchise, and I really can't quantify it more than that for some reason. That's my thoughts. I'm happy to be done. I'm glad that I saw the ones that I liked.
Yeah. Truly. This franchise has kind of been a chore to watch, and I've probably said that about almost every franchise we've watched so far.
Chris,
but that's just because, franchises in general, the more they go on, the worse they get. And this one is really no exception to that rule. Not to say that there hasn't been a few gems in this franchise, but yeah, I would say overall it's been pretty rough. I, of course, really enjoyed 1. I even enjoyed 2 quite a bit because it was, tonally a very goofy movie on the whole. And it was a really fun movie to just kind of turn your brain off and watch, even though in the back of my mind I was watching it for a podcast. And looking back on it now, and I think this might be the spiciest take that I have, I actually really enjoyed New Generations looking back on it. Was it a insane movie that really didn't have any right to exist? Yes. Do I love how far out of left field they went with the plot of the movie? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I love Vilmer? Yes. Do I wish I could have gotten more Vilmer? Maybe. Am I also glad that he got ran over by a biplane? Yeah. And also, now we can say that the Illuminati is officially, connected to the canon of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And according to Fede, it still is.
Yeah.
If you want it to be, it is.
Just so wild, but yeah, there is a certain monotony to this franchise that really, for some reason, is not the same as some of the other franchises that we've watched.
I'll also personally add that I also, for some reason, even though overall I dislike it more and think the highs are just as good as the other highs, the lows aren't, I wouldn't say, as low. For me personally, at least. Even one of the ones I hated the most was Next Generation. But also, I remember loving it as I watched it, but then going over it and discussing it with you and Isaiah, I was like, oh, actually, that movie was terrible, and I'm really mad at a lot of this. And, that was, in my opinion, the worst movie in the franchise, yet somehow, the whole franchise, I don't like it. And I don't know why. Because, the lows aren't... There's no Freddy's Dead lows in this franchise where I want to, I can't say what I want to do because YouTube gets mad when you make jokes about that.
I want to stop.
Yeah.
Stop it all.
I just wanted to stop. I wanted to stop watching the movie, but I had to make a podcast, so I had to finish it. That's what I was going to say the whole time, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll stop ranting about this franchise, and I'll let other Chris share his thoughts on the 3 movies in the franchise he watched.
Mr. Glass.
Yeah.
Oh, 4, sorry. You watched 4. Sorry.
I watched 3D... obviously the first one, and then the last Leatherface and this one. I obviously the first one's a classic. It's a great movie, and on such a small budget, just one of the best movies of all time. And I hated 3D. Thought Leatherface was okay, and overall thought this one, the highs of this one bring it up to being okay, I think. But, I mean, I think the lows of this movie are some of the worst. And I just hated 3D all around. I hated 3D so much. And Leatherface was just kind of boring.
That's fair. I would suggest go out of your way to watch 2. You might like it. You might not, but I think 2 is
go out of your way to watch 2 and maybe New Generation.
Yeah, Next Generation. It's Next Generation.
I like
the right thing.
I like weird movies.
Those are both very
really
weird movies in their own
very
ways.
Weird and wacky.
Yeah. Those are 2 that I would suggest that, personally, everyone should see. You might hate 4. For example, I'll give a little shout out to him. He likes when I do this. My dad hated 4 beyond belief. He also didn't like the first one, and we're still dealing with that issues in our family.
That's crazy.
That's my thoughts too. We're working through it. We're gonna be going to therapy soon.
See a counselor about it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's our thoughts on this. And now is the point where, in this really long podcast, sorry if you're a listener, is where I would then immediately go into announcing what our next franchise is. But first, I gotta make this episode longer because I gotta rant a little bit. I gotta rant about movie studios and why they hate me. So, peek behind the curtain. Initially, when I first made this podcast, I don't remember exactly what came after the Freddy vs. Jason arc, but relatively quickly, we were supposed to start the Halloween franchise. Because if you don't know, there's a new Halloween movie coming out this year, and I wanted to capitalize on that because that would do great for the channel. But when I was making the schedule, it was all saying in theaters this time, and most movies studios are just doing in theaters again because, everyone wants to pretend that the pandemic is over. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll move Halloween to next year when I know we can see it because I don't want to try to take notes in a theater. That sounds miserable. So I rearranged the schedule. And then I got word about like a month ago that, what's that? Oh, yeah, Halloween Ends is going to be going straight to Peacock. So I could watch it from the comfort of my own home, pausing when I need to take notes. And I moved the schedule for literally no reason. That's awesome. Thank you, Universal. But then, wait, don't guess what I switched stuff around with. And the new schedule was supposed to have us covering the Evil Dead movies. Other Chris's favorite franchise this year.
Yes.
But then, you know what? Those people over there did it. I believe that's Warner Brothers. They decided, hey, we suck as a company right now, and we are not putting this out on HBO Max because we don't care about HBO Max anymore, and we're going to shelve a lot of people's great work they've done. Thankfully, they're not shelving the new Evil Dead movie, but they're pushing it to April next year exclusively in theaters. So, we can't cover that right now, because I don't want to cover the first 4 Evil Dead movies and then not the new one. Like, that's silly. It's coming out next year. I'll push Evil Dead to next summer, and we'll watch all of them together, as well as a bonus movie that's going to be part of our Evil Dead / Bruce Campbell arc. Ooh. We're watching a different Bruce Campbell horror movie that's not Evil Dead. But, yeah, that had to get bumped to next year. So now, what are we going to talk about next week? The rant is over. That's the rant. I'm mad at the movie studios for moving stuff around on me twice. It really made me mad. They had no idea what they're doing. They're not doing this to attack me, but I wanted to complain. But now we actually are getting to pivot, though, to something that honestly is probably, for me at least personally, for the better. Because next week we are going to start my favorite horror franchise, period. As if you're a longtime listener, you know that I was not a fan of horror movies before we started this podcast, except for one. I loved one horror franchise, and that's the Scream movies. So next week, we're going to be talking about Wes Craven's 1996 classic, Scream. I've been Austin, joined by Chris and Chris, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.
Bye.